Hi, it's Lyn Leahz. Just a quick thank you to those of you who have been supporting the Lyn Leahz ministry and helping to make it possible for me to continue bringing you the truth here on YouTube. Of course, it's getting harder and harder every day. Donations are still down. I have been mentioning in the videos about the need for gifts to this ministry. However, they're still way down, hardly getting anything. If you pray about it and you feel moved or led to give a gift, you can do so via PayPal or check or money order via my P.O. box. And all that information is posted in the video description beneath this video. So thanks again to those of you who have been helping. I genuinely appreciate it. I wouldn't be able to do this without you and your love and your prayers and your support. God bless you, and I hope all of you are having a joyous, beautiful, and blessed day in Jesus Christ. Hi, it's Lyn Leahz, and you're watching Prophecy in the News. And I have a special guest today with me, and it is Charles with Noble Gold Investments. And Charles is an expert in the areas of the economy, being with what he does as the CEO of Noble Gold. And we're going to talk about quite a few interesting subjects and kind of see where some of them lead. But you know, we're in the end times, and a lot of things are happening. And Charles has some insight into some matters and some thoughts and opinions. So, Charles, thank you for joining me today on the show. It's great to have you.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Well, it is my pleasure to have you. You're just always so interesting and full of information, you know, like a little knowledge bank.
I try.
Well, we've got a lot of stuff going on. And one of the biggest things right now that I'm seeing in the news has been about people who are just getting shut down, censorship. You know, people getting shut down. There's, I just did an update the other day about a family here in the United States. Unfortunately, I can't remember what state it was in, but I did an update on it. But they are not allowed to hold their church meetings in their home. We have people's YouTubes getting shut down. There was Alex Jones.
Alex Jones, yes.
Mike. I just said his name a while ago and I can't remember, but he's the health ranger guy.
Yes.
He was shut down. There just all sorts of us. I'm being harassed. My views, they're shadow banning me on my YouTube channel. So it looks like I don't get as many views. People can't see my videos. They're not getting notified. Facebook is basically spamming a lot of my posts. Mm-hmm. And if I see it, I go in and mark it. You're having issues as well. Yes. So what's up? What do you think of all this? And what issues are you having?
It's amazing, but I think that we're beginning to see, and I hate to say it, but it feels like it's the end of free speech. Free speech only applies to liberals who want to say how horrible we Christians are.
Well, I know you hate to say it, but say it while you can.
Exactly. Yeah. And I got to get it out now because it seems like this is a real thing.
Yes.
America no longer has free speech. If you say something and it gets put out on any kind of a forum, and you have these social networks now who have decided they are the entities that will determine what you are allowed to say, that is headed down the wrong street in a very bad way. When you have organizations like Facebook, and I probably shouldn't say it, but I will say it anyway. If you have your Facebook page determining what's appropriate for you to be able to say, when you have Twitter saying you can't say this because you may not agree with somebody because of your religion, it's now hate speech. This is the biggest indication of what is to come. It is the silencing of the moral majority. It is the silencing of people who want to speak freely about God, want to speak freely about what they believe. And if it's not what the left thinks is appropriate, you're going to get shut down. It takes us on a very slippery slope. The ability to share, to pray will be next, because that's going to be considered, in my opinion, that's your next thing that's not going to be allowed to be done.
I'll be walking down the street praying really loud.
And that's what we'll have to do. Yep. But it will be considered a crime.
Hmm.
And it, for those who say it sounds ridiculous, it's happening now. We're seeing it. This family that said that they couldn't have a Bible study. I mean, this is exactly what we've read is to come, and we're seeing it.
Well, I think maybe 20 years ago, the things that are actually happening today seemed unimaginable. But
Ludicrous.
yeah,
Yeah.
but now they're happening. I mean, I grew up in the days where they thought 666 was going to be stamped on your forehead,
Right.
literally. But we can see now, those of you out there watching, there's things many, many years ago, like back in the 70s and the 80s, we didn't have the technology that we have today. And just like it tells us in Daniel, there will be an increase in technology. So we see that happening. And now, the way things are with the internet and all these supercomputers, we can actually see how these things can unfold. Like I just mentioned, that people used to think the mark of the beast would be stamped on your forehead. I remember the Hal Lindsey book, The Late Great Planet Earth, I think it
Yes.
was, and it showed like little drawings, and I would like stare at them as a kid, like just fascinated with this. But now we can see that the Bible says that it would be put in the hand or the forehead, and we can see with microchips and the RFID chip how that could take place. So it's all pretty interesting, and we're seeing these things unfold. So don't doubt for a moment that these things aren't happening, because they are. And I can tell you firsthand, I experience it constantly. It's awful what is happening. And, I've had my YouTube channel, the Lyn Leahz YouTube channel, in since 2014, and I've worked very hard on it. And I don't appreciate what they're doing to my channel, and most of all, it's God's channel, and I don't appreciate that they are keeping people from being blessed, because I get emails all the time from people talking about how they found the Lord, how it helped their relationship with somebody, their spouse, their family, whatever. And I reach people, like I said, in different countries,
Right.
even in Turkey. We were just talking about Turkey in a different program. So it's coming down hard, Charles. And
It is.
in fact, you just had something happen. And let me just I want people to think about something as they listen to you. I have noticed that no matter where I'm at, if I talk about things,
Hmm.
I could be away from home, that I'll get an advertisement on YouTube at the beginning of a video that will have to do with what I just talked about. With it, like I was talking about cheese one day. I mean, and I never have gotten a cheese ad. There's a cheese ad. I mean, it doesn't matter what I talk about, I all of a sudden see it there, or I'll get an email. I could have even texted it, and we're being listened to.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we are being listened to. So I think that there has something to do with that, in a relationship between your Trump coin that you have, that you guys are making this Trump coin and selling a lot of it.
Yes.
And I think that someone out there doesn't like it. What happened to you? Tell them what happened.
Yeah, and very interesting. This is very new. It just happened days ago. Um, we created the Trump coin to help commemorate what he's done, the improvements in the direction this country was going. So we thought, okay, what better way than to create a commemorative silver coin that people can say, hey, I'm proud of what the president's done. I'm showing my support. Than to create a coin. So we've created the coin. We opened a bank account just for this particular coin. We do have more than one business, and it was one way to keep everything clean financially. The sales were and still are very active. And we're putting money into this account to the point where the bank said, your account is being frozen. No warning, no questions. They just froze the account. They said that we're concerned about the activity that you're doing. So my job as the CEO of the company is to call the bank. I called them and I said, well, let me explain to you what it is. Just look, when I open this account, we have a particular coin that we're selling, and you're going to see orders from that, and this is where these sales are coming from. And I showed him all the records for every dollar that was deposited into that account. And they were all from our Trump coin sales. The bank did not care. They have my account frozen.
Right.
Thank God that we can still do business outside of that account because we set it up that way to be able to do so. But it's a direct attack on a company that is recognizing the freedom of speech and recognizing American values. And that's a scary thing when a financial institution can come in and do that and do it this quickly without any repercussion. There's nothing I'm going to be able to do. I can write letters. We can do all that. It doesn't change the fact that my account was frozen. And it's not going to change the way that bank does business. So I will have to move that account. But that's second nature. It's a direct attack on what I think is freedom, really. And this is
Certainly.
where we're at.
I wonder if it was an Obama coin, if they would have done that.
No, they would have probably sponsored it.
Or a Hillary Clinton coin.
Yeah.
God forbid, the thought is not. Anyhow, that's just terrible. And I don't know how there's people out there, to be honest, who cannot see. Like with the, we're talking about censorship. We've got wars and rumors of war. We've got more natural disasters,
Yes.
Tsunamis, earthquakes, hurricanes, fires, volcanic eruptions. We've got civil wars going on in various places, economy problems. I mean, you name it. And I'll tell you what, after what you just said, I kind of want one of those Trump coins,
TrumpCoin2020.com. That's where you get it.
TrumpCoin2020.com. That'll be on the screen too, by the way. Charles is doing a special favor for us and for you guys out there. And that favor is that if you go to TrumpCoin2020.com, and the information will be on the screen here, you can put in the code PITN, and we'll have that put on the screen as well. And normally the Trump coin costs $35, but Charles, making this special deal available to all of you out of the goodness of his heart, is going to give you a $5 discount. So it will be $30 for you. And these things are selling like hot cakes. I'm telling you.
Yes, they are.
Obviously. So that's terrible what they did to you. And I just asked you this morning as we were talking, and you told me that your bank account is still frozen, and it's been frozen since, was it Friday?
Yes, since Friday.
That's crazy. I kind of remember it was back in, I want to say 2008 when we had that. They had this big power outage everywhere, and it was more so, I think, in the East. I live in Ohio. And it was crazy. It was out for 3 weeks in some places. People were putting signs out front to the electric company.
Yes.
Like condemning them because they had no power still. People were lining up at the gas stations and they couldn't get gasoline, and they were getting into fist fights.
Right.
Verbally abusing one another. It was nuts. It was totally crazy. And this was just at that point. At that point, I think the power had been out for a little over a week, and it was chaos, utter chaos. So what I'm thinking is, what if something like that took place on a larger scale, as could very well happen? I mean, have you guys all out there all thought about how dependent we are on the internet, on technology? Look at that. We are so dependent upon these things for everything we do. And I want you to imagine, as you're sitting there, that all of a sudden, after this show, of course, is finished airing, so you see all of it, all of a sudden, your power and everything goes out, your internet, you have nothing. You're going to be freaking out for the first little bit. How are you going to feel after a day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, and then it becomes weeks? If we had a major catastrophe like that happen, I've read articles where they say that it could take literally months to even possibly, depending, like if it was an EMP or something,
right,
it could take even years. So
yeah, an EMP could be years. If you had a simple grid, massive major grid go down, that could be 3-4 months before it's repaired.
Yeah, people, I think that we sometimes think about that, but then we think, nah. Stuff happens, and it can happen, and catastrophes happen all over the world every day. It doesn't have to be, suddenly Jesus is coming back or something. These things can happen regardless. We have with the tsunami in Japan back in 2011. So things happen. And so if such a thing were to happen, what on earth would we do? Would people be ready for such an event? And how could you
Right.
ever totally be ready, you know?
Great question. And you know, you were saying we know that we'll see these things. These are an indication of the end
Oh,
times.
exactly. Yeah.
These are our warning sign that the end is coming. These are what we look for. So we know that these are going to happen. And when we look at that, we say, okay, how do you prepare? You know, first and foremost, you be right with God. Above all else, that's the most important thing you can do. But then you need to have some food. You know, you need to have some supplies built up. You need to be prepared for that. But I've always said you've got to have, you know, precious metals as well, something barterable for those items you can't store. If you need to get into a scenario where you've got to trade with somebody, gold and silver is by far the easiest way. It replaces the dollar. You know, when you don't have access to a bank and if you don't have a bunch of cash stored at your house, you need something you can use to barter with. And trade's important. You know, the stronger community is, the better and more diverse the products that they save. You now have the means to continue commerce during bad situations. So I've always found, you know, for me, that it makes sense to have something that is tangible like that to really fall back on.
Very important.
Yeah.
And, you know, I just want to address one thing real quick. There's probably going to be a lot of people out there watching. Why do I need to prepare? Because, you know, when Jesus comes back, before anything happens, I'm going to be okay. I don't need to prepare. Let me correct you on that really quick. First of all, we have the birth pangs. Okay, the birth pangs are going to be bad. I just talked about how, you know, the power was out for 3 weeks or more and everybody was going nuts. I mean, you couldn't even get a power generator because they were all taken. The people were using them. Well, that wasn't the rapture hadn't happened yet. I had to go through that. You know, thank God it was only 3 weeks. So we will have the birth pangs. Furthermore, if you have people that you believe are going to be left behind, loved ones, people you work with, what are they, if we don't prepare for something, what are they going to have?
No fighting chance if we don't leave something for them.
We have to leave something for the people who will still be here during the tribulation. We know that people are going to get saved during that time. We surely don't want them to give in to the beast antichrist system because they don't have anything. So let's not be selfish minded and just say, well, praise the Lord, I'm just going to be out of here and I don't need to worry. You do need to be concerned. You need to be concerned about the birth pangs that are coming, and you need to be concerned about the people who are left here during that time period and stop using that as an excuse to not be prepared. So I do care about all of you out there, and I love people, and I just hate the thought that people don't get ready for these things that are going to happen. And I just want people to be ready, and most importantly, spiritually too. Make sure you're right with the Lord. The Bible tells us that Christ is coming for a bride who is spotless and without blemish or without wrinkle. And so we need to be ready. We need to be right. We need to be watching. We need to be waiting. Now, real quick, I do want to mention, while I have a chance here, go to prophecyinthenews.com and subscribe to us to receive our updates. And also, if you are not subscribed to our magazine, we have a 48-page full-color magazine. You can order, get it delivered in your mail. Subscribe to that. If you're one of those people, you know, like you're one of those tech gurus and you kind of like the e-version of it, you know, the electronic version, well, we have that as well. And you're supporting us by doing that. That helps us. We're 100% viewer supported. So, Charles, back to you. I know you've got something to say. I can see it in your eyes. You look like you have something to say. I've said quite a bit. What do you have to say about all this stuff going on that I'm talking about here?
You had mentioned something, and you know, it's when we are gone, when we are called away, that what we leave behind really does help expand the kingdom of God. And I think that's so important, and it is something that's not talked about a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that, you know, for me, that's a really important thing to be able to know that the blessings I've been given in life will continue on even after I've gone. I can help make a way for others to see the glory of God and help fight what will be an unenviable fight. So that really kind of touched me in a place that's kind of special. That the fact that we do need to think about that as well.
Speaking of which, and I bet you almost thought you got out of having to share it too. But, by accident, well, I shouldn't say by accident, by the leading of the Lord one day when I had Charles on my show back about a year and a half ago, the Lord just moved us into this direction and to where you ended up sharing your testimony. And Charles has a really touching testimony about his daughter, and it blessed so many people that I would love it if you could just, if you feel so inclined, to share it with the viewers because it's powerful.
Okay, I can do that. We're talking about my daughter, Catherine. Just so you know, she's now 22 years old. So, and maybe that dates me a little bit, but that's okay too.
They grew up fast, huh?
They do. They do. Before my daughter was born, I've always been in finance. We've talked about that. I was an investment banker. I had my own investment banking firm. It's always been where I feel connected to what I do. And that's a very demanding position to be in. So I was going about my day-to-day life as the manager and the owner of this investment firm, and success was there. And we were having our second child. I have an older son, but our daughter was being born, and it was an amazing time for me. We did all the doctor visits. We did that together. Me and my wife were very excited, and the day came where she was born, and it was a trying time for me. When she was born, she didn't have the ability to breathe. She was born with multiple birth defects, and we never knew. The entire time of the pregnancy, we were told everything is fine. We're visiting the doctor on a regular basis. Everything looks perfect.
So you weren't prepared?
We weren't prepared in the least bit. Not in the least bit. And so when she was born, she had, the bone had grown and occluded her nasal passages, so she couldn't breathe. So right from birth, there was issues. It wasn't something that was a delayed and find out later. So they automatically responded to that. And then we found out that she had holes in her heart, and her lungs weren't formed. And she has a chromosomal disability. She has a cracked leg of a chromosome. So it really, at that moment, what I believed was going to be this beautiful experience, it changed that because I didn't understand it then. I understand it now. It's still very beautiful. It's even more beautiful to me now. But at the time, I couldn't understand it. And it broke me as a man, that I was helpless. And it took me to a point where I had to get on my knees and say, Lord, why? I've been faithful. Why? What have I done? And you learn a lot through that. You learn that sometimes the plan is more important than the feeling. And God had a plan for me. But through that, I learned so much about God's love. I learned so much about what it takes to be a father and to have a fatherly love.
And sacrifice.
Sacrifice, absolutely. And so as a family, we really learned so much more about who we were.
Probably brought you closer together.
So much closer, and as a family unit now, I don't think you can, I'll brag on my family a little bit because I can. I don't think you can get a tighter family. We are that close. But it was a trying time. And for any of you parents out there now who have a scenario like this, I just ask you to bend your knee and have faith because God will make a way. He always does. Stand fast in that. No matter how hard it may seem, there is a path and you'll be led through it. But you have to bend your knee and you have to say, Lord, I accept this responsibility that you've given me. You've given me a child that needs more than the average. You thought so much of me as a parent that you could give me this child who needs so much more than the average child. And when you turn it and you look at it that way, it really will change your perception. And it will also give you strength that you never knew you had. It will take you down a path that will bless you. It'll keep you up at night. It'll make you cry, you know. But when you go through it, you'll be so blessed at the end that it's absolutely worth it. And you want to make sure that you're there to help others who are walking that path. So any of you out there who are walking that path, let me know. I will pray with you, and I promise you, put your faith in God, and there'll be an amazing blessing. And you'll see it, you'll feel it, you'll live it. Long story short, we've gotten through. She's doing very well now. But that's our God, though. He could take your worst scenario, or what seems to be your worst scenario to you, and make it the biggest factor in who you are and who you become. And that's what happened with me. It changed who I was, who I wanted to be.
Well, I can imagine too. And I want to say to those of you out there, sometimes when we go through trials in our lives, to us, each and every one of us, whatever that is we're going through seems like the worst. It seems like we are just in the darkest place. Sometimes we blame God. Sometimes if we're not blaming God, we blame ourselves and we say, Lord, what did I do wrong? Are you mad at me, Lord? And I think it's always important that we do look at our life and see if there's something going on that's displeasing to God. However, that's not always the reason. We just go through things because we live in an imperfect world. When Adam and Eve sinned and allowed sin in the world, the flesh is imperfect. This world is imperfect. In fact, our bodies are made from the dust of what? The earth, which is perfect. And I thank God every day that there will be a day when we have a perfect body and a perfect life with the Lord. But while we're on this earth, we're always going to be warring against this flesh that we have. The flesh that the Bible tells us, Ephesians 6, verses 10 through 20, that our battle is not against the flesh and blood, but against spiritual wickedness in high places and principalities. So when we say the flesh, we're talking about this spiritual war that takes place within our fleshly man against these demonic hosts of wickedness. So remember that and know that the Lord is always with you, and there are times that you don't feel him or you don't hear from him, and those are those times when you just really feel extra alone. Like, wow, does God even love me? I'm going through this by myself. He's not here for me. I've done that myself. I can't tell you how many times where I cried and I said, Lord, I don't hear you. I don't feel you. I feel like you left me. King David,
Amen.
even King David, whom the Lord loved dearly, went through those moments. We don't know why. We don't have all the answers, but God has a reason. Faith is not getting what you want. Faith is still believing and still trusting in the Lord at all times and trusting in his perfect plan, even when we can't see the end and even when we don't get what we want. That is true faith. Faith isn't this message that's being preached that you just get whatever you want, and that's faith. Anyhow, if you don't know Jesus, ask him into your heart today to be Lord and Savior of your life. Thank you so much for watching, and God bless all of you. And remember that prophecy in the news is the place to be for prophecy, and keep looking up.